They said it was our window on the world. They said it had the power to make the common man uncommon. It came into our homes and changed our lives for all time to come. It was television.
I Remember Television, a perspective on the past, the programs and personalities of television's first decade. Presented by KVCR Television and your host, Ed Rothhaar.
From time to time in these weekly television visits, which of course, as you know, are designed to spotlight programs from television's first decade, I've had the chance, nevertheless, to provide some special programs of fond memory for this television station. Programs from the past of KVCR TV, Channel 24, which were produced right here in our own community, in fact, in this very studio. Not very many of them, just a sampling for you of some of the local programs that we have produced, trying to provide an added dimension of community service for your viewing over the years since our station was founded in September of 1962. And this week we have one such program from the past. It was produced in December of 1970 for broadcast in February of 1971, and then distributed to what I think was then 17 stations of what was then called the Western Educational Television Network. The whole western region of the U.S. Got to see this program. It's called the American College Theater Somewhere Beyond Broadway, and was designed to focus on live theater and the state of it in this country outside of and beyond the Broadway theater. The program was produced by our good friend and colleague Harry L. Murray, who at the time was professor of speech and theater arts here at San Bernardino Valley College, and who retired in 1990 after many long years here as professor emeritus. Harry did the work of assembling for us a group of theater professionals to discuss the state of theater at the time. Now remember, this was done in December of 1970. I think you're going to be amazed at how many issues raised then, essentially 30 years ago almost, which are still of vital concern to the American theater-going public. The guest is practically a who's who of American theater at the time. Faye Kanan, the brilliant writer who later became president for several terms of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Ezra Stone, who at the time was the producer-director, and whom you're going to remember as the voice of Henry Aldrich on radio. Milton Crims, who was an award-winning writer of screenplays in Hollywood. Alan Landsberg, an astoundingly good documentary producer whose work you will undoubtedly recall having seen over the years. Kate Drain Lawson, who was one of the great scenic designers and costume designers in theater and television. And I've forgotten some more, but they're all there. Oh, I can't forget Fritzy. The great character actor, Mr. Fritz Feld, is a vital part of this program. I think you're going to enjoy the discussion, and I'm very pleased to be able to share it with you now. Let's fade then from present-day colored television to the black and white of Channel 24, KVCR TV, from December of 1970. Here's Somewhere Beyond Broadway, as I Remember Television.
And then you get your laughs, the pure students who have so much interest and bring such a tremendous enthusiasm are misled.
But Fritz, you don't mean that Moliere should only be played one way, that somewhere it is written...
By no means.
...that it must only be the way the original author conceived it. We'd never have...
I agree with you 100%.
We'd never have My Fair Lady.
Do you deny the young director the chance to play with Moliere, to do a play and experiment with it?
Of course not.
Maybe he realizes afterwards that he could have done it differently.
Unless it's completely wrong. A professional theater played Moliere and Americanized.
Well, you're suggesting then that only mature directors do Moliere in the college
Absolutely.
theaters,
Unless there is a great talent like Mr. Freeland, whom I saw the other day, who is a young, sensitive director, 19 years old. He's absolutely fabulous.
You mean you got to get a Moliere license?
I'm not talking about Moliere alone. I talked about other
Fritz,
things.
you
Well, I
can't be
think we're being,
completely sure, I don't think either, that he's being misled, because you don't know what is going on behind the scenes. The audience, yes, may be howling, but the faculty member may be giving them a realistic point of view. You as a judge, if you're talking about a play in the festival, are writing critiques, and that's why I ask you to be honest in the critiques.
I am
Because
right now.
constantly we're telling them that mother and father are prejudiced, and you cannot always rely on their judgment. I mean, you know, I think my daughter's great, but maybe she isn't, and I hope she listens to someone else.
The college festival. I think the greatness of this college festival thing is that young people are given the opportunity to work at the things they want to do, and that they learn as they work. They are not experienced. Of course not. They wouldn't be in college if they were experienced. They
I'm
wouldn't
sorry,
be young
but you
people.
misquote me. I'm not
How
talking about
long?
young people.
Now,
who have
wait a
enthusiasm.
minute, though. How
I'm
long?
talking about the director who's misleading him.
But
That's
the
what I'm
director
talking
is a
about.
young person, too.
That's how
Yeah,
he's
but
going
he
to
has
learn.
no right, in my opinion, to direct.
He has
I
every
think
right.
you're wrong.
He has every right in the world to direct.
Director is a man who has to play with all emotions and all. He has to start with a
He
small
has every
play.
right to direct it in college. He has no right to direct it on Broadway or in a major production.
Well, I'm
I
definitely
think this is a marvelous moment for us to tell our audience who is watching us what the American College Theater Festival is that we keep dropping into this conversation all the time.
Right.
I
We
think
know
they
about
might like to know what it is and a little bit about how it started and why we're all into this great argument, Fritz.
Jean would be
And
very-
Jean, I think if you just brief us and we'll all hop
Jean,
in.
after all, is a member of the Central Committee.
Not only should, I think we should listen, because we might find out something about the organization we don't know.
Oh,
Back in Washington.
we're all right.
Please add things when I leave something out, will you?
It's Jean Korff.
Yeah.
Oh my. This is the third annual American College Theater Festival that we're facing now. It is held each year in the spring in Washington, D.C., and 10 schools are selected from around the nation to go to Washington and participate by putting on their play, I believe, twice.
All expenses paid.
All expenses paid, yes.
Who
They
does
are.
sponsor it, Jean, again?
The
We have a
sponsors
couple of
are very
sponsors this year.
complex, yes. There are commercial sponsors who are American Airlines, and we have just added American Express and American Oil.
Oh, we're all very American.
Yes, very American, American College Theater Festival. The non-commercial sponsors are the John F. Kennedy Center, the Performing Arts, where the plays will be eventually performed when that building is completed, and the American Educational Theater Association, and the American National Theater and Academy, and the Smithsonian Institution. And have I left anyone out? I don't think so. All right.
Jean, let me ask you, because I've always wondered, when the colleges choose the play which they're going to put into the festival, does it take more courage to do an original play than to do a classic, or is it based on what you think will be the best, demonstrate best your department or your
I can only
performer?
speak for myself.
Right.
I'm sure other schools have different reasons for choosing. I'm in a 2-year school, and I more or less have to choose for the people that I have. I mean, some years I have people that are more advanced, and like when we did Rashomon, we had more advanced students, and we could do that play at that time. I don't
So
believe
sometimes
this year.
it's sort of pragmatic.
Yeah, right.
May I
For me it is.
suggest
I'm
an
sure that isn't
interesting
true of
link?
all.
This college festival thing. I said before that I got Jerry Lawrence to go down to see
His own play.
his own play. Jerry Lawrence and Bob Lee then wrote a play called The Night Thoreau Spent in Jail. And one of the first places where it played, I think it was perhaps one of the very first places where it was performed, was at Jean's school, at Rio Hondo.
We did the West Coast premiere. I
There was
think it was
a
the third production.
Now,
actually.
I wonder what would have happened with that play. One, had there been no college festival. Two, had he not seen Jean Korff's production of it.
I think it would have gone on.
No, I'm merely saying, insofar as how would it would have gone, certainly, someplace or other. But it's extremely interesting to me that this
Well, Milton's
excellent playwright, you see. This man was an
Oh,
excellent...
well,
said, well, I'm going to see how it goes at Rio Hondo Junior College because
I don't think that's
last...
quite true, though. Because I believe they had the 50 college concept.
That's right.
They did have... I grant you that. They have that back at Ohio State, which is... But the point is, it went to Rio Hondo, where he had seen a production. And this was... The play has been, I believe, rewritten since then. A lot of work has been done. But
I don't think even as the author he could have restricted its performance once it was offered, could he?
No, if you were a member of APT, American Playwrights Theater, you could do it.
In other words, Gene could have had the worst department in that.
Right, yes, it had really nothing to do with it. It's very nice, Milton.
The point, Milton, that there's a larger point, I think, that comes out of what you're saying, and I, as a writer, think of that, which is my husband and I, who have written together for the theater, have gotten a little... we just don't have much heart to write for Broadway anymore. We don't like the conditions anymore. When we first started writing in the theater for the Broadway theater, it was, and I can say, great fun. It had its travail and it had its stresses, but it was great fun. And it isn't anymore. Economics, I think, have done that in a kind of erosion of criticism, and even the audience has changed. The audience has become, as I think we might have pointed out earlier, an audience that can afford it and limits, therefore, really, by their own tastes, what you do in that theater. So we kind of said, I don't think we'll write plays anymore, but I just want to make my...
Yeah. But you were also very fortunate, because I saw your production that Gene Koff directed. It was absolutely outstanding.
Right.
It was so beautiful.
Well, beyond what our own production was, it is that going round to all these theaters now in colleges and seeing that theater is fun again. I go backstage afterwards, we all do. We talk to these kids. We talk to all the professors and all the people in the educational theater. They're all enjoying themselves as we professionals used to in the theater. And I said to Mike, by gosh, I'd like to write a play again. And if I write a play again, I'm not interested in taking it to Broadway. I'd like first to take it around to some college theaters, regional theater, and have fun again. That's really what it's all about. I don't know if any of you...
You mean you're saying that Hal Prince and David Merrick aren't having fun?
Well, maybe, I'm not sure about David Merrick. Hal has fun, because Hal really is one of the few producers left on Broadway that really enjoys his work and has had such phenomenal success that he can afford to have fun.
Well,
but the majority of people don't.
There's another thing that I think a lot of you perhaps have forgotten, and maybe it's just one of my pet things. That is, you're all talking about plays and actors, but one of the parts of it that to me is most exciting, and the reason I stick with this thing, because I believe in it, is because it's a chance to design scenery, it's a chance to design costumes, it's a chance to make, to cut, to sew, to saw, all these things for something that's good. And this is in itself a whole career and the whole making of a purpose for doing college theater this way.
I might add to that. It's not only that. We talked about new plays, which of course is the best for writers to be seen and for the young students. I'm talking about old plays. These plays which have entertained an audience for generations, from Aeschylus, Sophocles, Romans, Greeks, Italian, French, think of Japanese, American playwrights. These plays cannot be seen anywhere. Now, if they are seen, then new authors can learn how a play was constructed. Yes. The actors can learn how these wonderful parts were written, entertaining generations again. They are foolproof plays.
Learn how not to fall through the door.
Exactly. Not only comedies and dramas, but think of all the tremendous giants of dramatic literature.
It may even improve American speech.
It definitely
does. Bob, as a professional director who's worked in many media, would you be impelled to go work on a college campus?
I would.
But I think that new forms have to be sought out. See, I think the motion pictures are more pertinent to what's going on than the banner that the theater is carrying on now. I think they're saying it better than we're saying it, or better than the theater is saying it.
In content or in form?
In both aspects. See, I think that we have to begin to understand the motion picture medium in the sense of how we are in a theater, begin to use that medium and break out of the proscenium, to involve an audience more, to captivate them more, and to say things within a play that's related to the time in which we live, which was Milton was talking about some time ago. I don't think we're writing that kind of play, because the revolution is on. And it very well may be that it's getting terribly late, and we better get on with it.
You mean
and
late?
say the plays that have to be said.
Late to use the theater as a platform, you mean?
It may be, but I think that we have to begin to find new forms in which to say it, and to use the skills that are there and the forms that are there, and use them all interconnecting with together.
You mean
both music and films and the theater.
Forgetting the classics entirely?
Oh, no.
I don't think.
But I think that the use of the classics has to be related to what's going on now. Otherwise, I don't think that...
I don't understand. You mean revamp the classics?
You don't have to revamp them. I think, who was mentioning the Summer's Dream? Was it
I did.
You don't have to
revamp
revamp Sophocles.
I don't think so.
There's
I'm
a
just
whole
asking.
You
kind
don't have to do anything to Sophocles.
I'm just asking because
Just do
you
the
talk about
clouds
the
today.
theater of today. I haven't seen many good plays of today's theater.
You don't see that many good plays, but they're around. You'd be amazed.
Yeah.
But the important thing is that they don't lose the
I went to the
audience.
opening of Remote Asylum,
Well,
and I tell you, I was horrified. And that's
didn't know.
today's writer who had such a success in New York with another play, Boys of the Band.
Well,
that's not our purpose here, but in any event, I think a very much
What do you mean it's not
very
our purpose?
important thing. I should have said it's not my purpose here. Forgive
My
me.
purpose to criticize it, yes.
Another very important thing, though, to me, why I want this college festival to grow more and more, bigger and bigger, is the matter of the life and death of a college play. Students spend months doing a play. They put it on for 4 or 5 days, then it's dead. Maybe, if they're lucky, it's going to last 2 weeks, who knows, but 10 days, something like that. Then it's finished. It goes into limbo, you see. One of the great things about this college festival to me is at least the best of them are looked for and are named and then chosen for a kind of a resurrection, let's put it that way, so that they will be seen again and then seen again someplace else, if they are that good, in Washington. Because I think it's rather depressing when you work several months on something, and then its total life is 4 days maybe. And also, only within a very limited area, which is equally important. Mama has come to see it, and Papa and uncles and aunts and other students have come to see it.
well, and the
But
community
it
has come.
has really
Well, I may be
stimulated
cute.
people to go to
You
them. I mean,
see-
my students go to all of the other plays.
you're
And
right,
many
even
of
so, I
those
don't
come
agree
to
with
ours,
you.
and they didn't do that before.
Well, you and I are always...
Did we cut Gene off before? Because I'm not sure now that I know the mechanics of getting a play from, say, one college to Washington, where ultimately the best of them will go.
Well,
Well,
I was thinking
the
for-
regional festival, is that where we stopped?
Yes.
All right, the regional festival, there are presently about 7 national judges, and they are sent to the region. People who are outside the region are sent to the region. For instance, I'm a national judge now, but I will not judge our local festival. I will not be doing that. 2 gentlemen from Texas and Yale will judge our festival. And then that committee meets in February, and they hash through all the festivals they saw and all of the recommendations they have and choose 10. And one thing I'd like to say that I thought of as Milt was talking, those 10 plays in Washington are reviewed by Washington critics and New York critics, and there is none of this, you know, well, for an educational institution they did a fine job. They are really evaluated along
Well, I was at
with
the
professional
festival in
standards.
Washington
Yes.
last year, saw 4 of the productions and read all the reviews, and no holds barred.
No,
they
they're very
go at it the way
bright.
they do any
And they
professional
should.
touring
Which is
company.
great.
And they should, because otherwise, if a student is in a play who goes all the way to Washington, it's very easy for him to think, boy, I've made it, you know, and this is it, and so on.
In other words, there's no paternalism of
No,
any
none
kind,
whatsoever.
no kindness.
I'm
They-
sorry, Gene, what I was concerned about was we talk about it as a festival.
Right.
which I think conjures an image of everybody coming to one place at one time.
Unfortunately, that really doesn't happen in Washington right now.
But it happens here.
It happens here, though.
We do have a marvelous
And it happened
weekend.
in Provo, Utah, at the Rocky Mountain Festival. In fact, their plays, everyone entered in that region came together. And just think what a wonderful opportunity that is for all of those students to get to see every play that was in that particular region. Here we come down to three, has been three in the past, but in our region, we've been very fortunate in that we have so many professionals to draw on, that we've been able to have workshops. And last year, I think everyone in this group participated in a workshop, led a workshop, and Bob did one in acting and Kate in technical theater, and the students were able, all of the students, not just the ones in the three finalists, but in every school, I believe it was 18 last year.
May I add another
Every
thing
one
to
of
that,
them.
too? That we made it possible for the students to see the other plays for nothing.
Yeah.
They were not charged to see the other plays.
You know,
That's so
I
important.
also am delighted that the center of this, that where all the plays go back to, is Washington.
Yeah.
Because I think I've noticed what's happened with the things that I'm sent each year I haven't gone to the National Festival, but they send Mike and me as judges reports on what goes on and criticism and whatnot. Each year the audiences have grown. Washington, which hardly, kind of noticed it a little bit the first year, noticed it a lot more the second year, and I think it's going to continue to notice it more. It makes quite a splash. As you say, Richard Coe, all the top critics are. Now,
And they had a tea at the White House.
right, and the president has noticed it and all of that. What I'm hoping is that Congress will notice it.
Yes.
Because I think, and I'd like to open that for a little discussion, I say to myself, why does this country find it so hard to embrace the concept of some form of national theater when all over Europe and every country there is a national theater subsidized by the government, helped,
Well,
enjoyed?
I would like to answer that, if I may, because I was deeply involved in this as president of ANTA, Southern California chapter, quickly add. And we were very much concerned about a national theater, really based on another question, and that is, what happens to all these wonderful students of the performing arts, these great kids who design and sew and learn how to act and where do they go? Because as we all know, there are very few places to go to for all these brilliant, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say some of these kids are absolutely brilliant. And so at the time, I will identify myself as a reckless type character, I appointed Fritz Feld to chair a committee which would concern itself with the National Theater, with the problem of the National Theater. It got pretty hectic, I'll tell you that, for many, many reasons. But I'd like Fritz to give you an answer out of his own experience, because I don't want to quote him. And he had some pretty...
You mean about why it's so tough
Well,
to
you're
get a
very,
national
you're
theater
very
started?
kind to ask me to do that. First of all, with national theater, we don't mean one theater.
Yes, this was...
With national theater, we mean theaters over the entire country.
Right.
A town like Los Angeles should have at least 4 or 5 theaters. For each community is a different play, probably a different kind of an audience. And national theater is so important. No national theater in the entire world is making a profit. They are all in the red. But it is so beautiful that a nation in all other countries took care of a national theater. America is one of the very few countries that hasn't got a national theater.
Well,
and we are fighting for years and years. ANTA was the first one to get, what do you call it, a
Charter
charter.
from Congress.
And
Still
only the
has-
charter, but no money.
They
Right.
still have
Never
the
any
charter.
money. That's
Never
my
any
point.
money.
Never any money.
And we picked up again where we, in California, to try to make it possible. And we had meetings as UCLA, and I might say right now, the only ones who help probably to eventually become a national theater are the American Educational Theater Festival. These students keep up the tradition, and as you say, they might be recognized by the government eventually at the Kennedy Center. They might say, now, there is a real possibility. And that's why we are so fascinated and interested in the students who might be the forerunners for a national theater. There's nothing else.
Well, you know, I remember a word that you all, I'm sure, do remember it, that Congress once applied to theater when it was proposed way back years ago. And they called it boondoggling, and they said they were not going to, you know, recommend any appropriations for boondoggling. Now, I say to myself and to you all, why in America do we consider theater still boondoggling? Why is it something frivolous? It's an evening's entertainment.
They are afraid. See, the artist is at war with his society. I think he must be. I think it's a lover's war, but I think it's a war with his society. And I think when he presents those ideas, those people who allocate the funds are frightened.
I think it's a little, that's, what you're saying is absolutely true.
Let me just, well, it popped in my head.
Right.
Excuse me, Milton. The only federal project that ever paid for itself and made money was the Federal Theater.
And some marvelous theater came.
And why can't we do that again? Exactly, I mentioned that too.
Well,
why
because we can't get the money.
No, but may I answer that in an entirely different way? What you said is absolutely true. But there's also probably a more profound reason, too, and that is that we have no tradition of subsidized theater in this country. In Europe, theater came into being because it was subsidized from the very beginning. It was not a people's theater. It was a theater that was subsidized by royalty, by the aristocracy, and they paid for it. And even in the beginning, the people were not allowed to go to this theater. This was their private theater.
It's true, the church and the aristocracy.
In time, especially when, like, Molière was kicked out, and so he had to go public, and people came to see the plays. So that there was a subsidization, let's say, by the government, which created this national theater. In turn, the people adapted it to their own use. And I must tell you this, they still complain bitterly about it in many countries. They pay.
But very little.
Willingly.
Very little.
Very little. But they still complain about how much money they pay for all these things. And what we lack in this country, more than anything else, is a tradition of subsidized arts, because we lack this tradition in almost anything. The moment we say government should pay for something to help it, even in the beginning with the airlines when they had trouble getting subsidies. And finally a deal was made. Let me just finish this stuff. So they carried the mail, you know. Until such a time as the American public understands this, there will be problems about a national theater. But to pick up what Fritz said a moment ago, I think that the college theaters, which after all are supported by taxpayers, are beginning to make people understand that there should be some kind of a subsidized theater. So I think they're beginning to understand this. And in the final analysis, what people want, I'm old-fashioned this way, finally, in the final analysis, what people want, they're going to get if they are strong enough in their demands. Excuse me, Fritz.
I just wanted to read one thing to you, Sir Lawrence said in England. It is to present, talking about a national theatre, which they have in England, it is to present to its public as complete a spectrum of world drama as is humanly possible. It is to maintain an unusually high standard of performance and production. National theatre added interest in that it might give a peculiarly national flavor and national pride.
I think there's something marvelous happening, which is, I went a couple of Saturdays ago to a seminar in Hollywood on what is called cassettes and CATV. We are right now. doing this discussion on a CATV, in a sense, on a cable. Probably this will be sent out on many cable television stations. I think your son, your issue, what you're concerned about, and in a sense all, are going to be part of an enormous explosion. It will just, as Bob says, have different forms. It will be theater, maybe not in those edifices that have been built. And maybe those edifices will be used, and what will happen is cassettes will be made in them, and those cassettes will go out. Am I not right, Alan? I think there's going to be such a need for people in this medium.
People to be able to perform, and the magic that we kind of dismiss. The movies don't have the magic. The television doesn't have it. But as we have presented plays to the limited kids, they realize that there is something exciting that happens when they feed an actor, and an actor begins to feed back to them. But they haven't really found the relevant message, their understanding, their point of view. I mean, we have the communication gap between us. We know there's a gap. We're writing the plays for them to produce. That's not the way it's going to be. If there's going to be two-way communication in the audience, it's going to come out of the original work that will come out of a college. Maybe it's going to be crude, and maybe it will not be as refined. Maybe they won't. They do not at this moment have the inspiration from the masters, but they need this this sense of what a theater can be.
Right.
I mean, we who didn't have any other form of entertainment, where movies were a lot more remote, where radio was a public form of entertainment. Here we have a theater that can do something extraordinary. They all talk. They understand communication. They go to their Woodstocks. They gather 400,000 strong. But we haven't found the vehicles yet, I don't think, that excite them. That more reason than any for a national theater is to help develop the vehicles that will now involve them with the players and the audience.
It's an indigenous thing. It has to come out of them, too, and that's why the colleges are functioning and why they have employment.
I like to quote Councillor Murphy, who said about a year ago, what the hospital is to the medical student, the theater is to the student of the theater.
And apart from anything else, it's such a personal release, if you will, for everybody who works in it in any ways at all, because you have to give. You can't do it and not give. And whatever you give is important.
You see, I have to go on your tangent, is that I think it's like nationally the polarization is so acute that unless we get out in the streets where it's really going on and begin to develop guerrilla theater or whatever kind of theater we can to get nearer the people, to make them understand what we feel about it, or we as artists feel about what's happening to the whole world as reality, I don't think it can ever take place.
That's a matter of a writer, then.
It goes back to what I said originally. Unless those writers appear.
Well, what the college gives us is a forum. I mean, at least it's a forum.
I don't think we can have the
arena.
kind of theater.
And this kind of development is the arena in which it can happen.
And the cliche of the artist having always to starve, always have to beg for a living, always living on Christopher Street, always living on Horatio and going through all those numbers, has got to stop sometime. And it'd be nice to have 3 meals a day and work on the project that you love instead of paying.
It would be
those
nice
enormous
to be
sums that we've all paid.
subsidized. That's a lovely word. Subsidy means that you can afford to fail. And by fail, I'm using the word, advisedly. You can afford to experiment, to be wrong. It doesn't mean that you don't eat tomorrow. You won't get a job tomorrow. I think one of the greatest things we can provide is a place where you can fail, where you can try the most outrageous things, where you can do what Bob says, where you can be free and still eat.
The one great problem of subsidization is the support of the individual failure. I mean, I say the great thing about a national theater is that it will weed out the shoe clerks. By shoe clerks, I mean using an old Army term now. It cannot exist if it will provide subsidization for incompetence. Therefore,
well, but then it's a question of what's who's going to define incompetence, Milton?
Well, I think that there is such a thing as the capability of defining incompetence. I'm
I
speaking
would
now-
even
I
allow
would go this
incompetence to
way.
be subsidized a little bit because the
A little,
competence will emerge.
a little bit.
and
Either the
shake
competence
down.
emerges or it does not emerge, at which time there is the shakedown, which of course is highly acceptable. These are the great values of a national theater, you see, that it does create a machinery for the separation of the capable and the incapable. It's an old story that actors and writers and directors, all kinds of people struggle year after year that they go hungry. Should we deprive contemporary youth of the same opportunity?
No, but let's look at it logistically. Gene, how many young theater people do you think we are graduating in our universities every year?
Oh, I don't have any idea. A very large number.
In the tens of thousands, would you say?
Oh, hundreds
All right.
thousands.
Now,
I really
how many working professionals are
Well,
there in all the crafts?
It's a whole new subject.
In other words,
Charles.
how many theaters do we have to employ the waves of young people that we are inspiring? And is this logistically valid?
No.
Yes.
It is.
No, I would
Well,
like to give you...
I would it's a rhetorical question. I would just like to throw in a thought. I don't think the training in the theater ever hurt anybody.
Exactly.
I think that
Whether they go on to
perhaps-
use it
Right.
professionally or not.
Exactly.
Right.
They will be a better politician. They will be a better member of their community.
Right.
They will
Right.
be a better doctor. They will be more
Right.
accepted personally because they will have had the chance to enjoy adulation from their fellow citizens, and that
They will
perhaps
learn to
might
express
spur the
themselves.
good. in
Get
them.
rid of
And
their
a lot of church
hostilities.
playhouses will have better performances.
And also
theaters
the whole
and little
Disney-
And in the
Really?
pulpits, too.
And,
We're talking about two different things entirely. Now, here sits a man who's fighting for the future of the theater.
So are
He's-
we all,
so
my
are we
dear.
Yes,
all.
right, in a different
So
way.
are we all.
In a different way.
No.
Doesn't matter which
I
way.
personally, I'm a classicist. I'm still fighting for the classic theater.
Sure. Why not?
Not denying that a new play should be. He is fighting mainly and says, if you want to have an audience of young people, you got to go out on the street, you got to invent something brand new which interests the new audience. That's an entirely different
Well, can't they
concept.
both live side by side?
I wonder.
That isn't interesting. Can they live side
have
by
to.
side? Does one have to?
Before you do anything else, you've got to have an audience to come to. Where is the audience that you're coming
He
to?
says to
I
create
mean, we all know that in the days of the Greeks, that they traveled hundreds and hundreds of miles to sit for days to watch the theater. Now, recently in New York, when I was there getting a play ready, which did not go on to New York for other problems, Joe Pack was getting ready something over in the park, and he did 5 Shakespearean plays in one night. It started at 7 and finished at 1.
Oh,
So it's almost a throwback
that's
to the very thing
glorious.
which you're talking about, Fritz. But everybody stayed, and there were young people who had never seen
Mark.
it.
and very
for a second,
enthusiastic
or the
about
third.
Shakespeare suddenly. That's what I mean. There's a great playwright. You can't have a better playwright.
But what happens, they took the play and they moved it, they thrust it out into the audience, they involved the young people,
Yes.
they talked to them, they worked with them, they did comedic things with them.
In
So they
church,
were
you can
part
take
of
the
that play,
classics and
see?
do what you're talking about with them, make them alive for the audience, make them explode on the street.
The day of sitting back with the old folio and saying, oh, they cut those lines off, and that's the whole thing, we're going to cut that folio. I remember when Gielgud did that cut, and that kind of thing is gone. You know, I think the kids want to be involved in what's going on and how is it pertinent to my life now.
We're all
And
for
then I think the
free-form
kids get
classics.
turned on.
We're all for free-form classics.
Yeah.
And besides, they do go miles, like your Woodstock thing, to be an audience.
Wonderful.
And that's an audience that's a live audience.
Yeah.
They take part in the thing. Well, if they can do that, if we give them good enough thing, and if we give them a chance to see it,
Well, I think
Automatically.
that's your key. I mean,
to me
giving
it
them-
is.
Getting the subsidy is not for another house, but is to put a play, a group of play and players on the road to the places where they don't get to see. And perhaps this is a vehicle for doing it. Perhaps the festival is the vehicle for doing it.
it's one of them.
Mount these, put these on the road, gather, make the experience a living one.
Right.
And then the next time a play comes through, a few more will come.
Well, we have to enlighten big business. Fortunately, we have 3, I guess, now enlightened organizations in American
Right.
Airlines and American
It's a form of
Express, American Oil.
subsidy.
But I think we've got to go to those big corporations that have found it profitable or prestigious to invest in the ballet and in the plastic arts, to now anoint the performing arts, at least the theater.
Germany did that in 1920. They called it the People's Theater. They went to, suddenly, with Max Reinhardt, who was a giant of the theater, they went to the different companies and said, all the workmen can from now on buy a ticket for $1. And they formed the People's Theater. It was not communistic. It was just socialistic. And because they didn't have a director, they asked Reinhardt to direct the plays. And that was the Volksbühne, the People's Theater, which was a tremendous success. I don't see any reason why this can't be done in this country.
Of course not.
Do we have a Reinhardt today, Fritz?
Yes,
in the
we
United
have lots
States?
of Reinhardts. We have lots of
now.
young people. As I said, I saw a production only recently, and you say not to mention it because that's criticizing.
They'll bleep
Who
it.
is a young talent. I never seen a director like it. The man is so sensitive. He worked with the actors in a way like a symphony. A young man, I think he's 21 years old.
Who, Alan Freeman?
Yes. Fabulous man.
Yes,
There's a talent, a genius, a young genius, who will not misled anyone, contrary, and they all respond. There is such a director, there are young Reinhardts, if you give them a chance. And we must see that these people get a chance, as you rightly said, to interest communities and big organizations, which I tried. Unfortunately, I was stopped because he said, you have no right to collect money. I was trying my utmost.
Got every right.
To get, yeah, well, I was told I had no right, so I quit, unfortunately. But there are 3 companies who now sponsor the American College Theater. And there are other ones sleeping somewhere who are interested.
Well, now, we've been very fortunate, I know, in the years that I've been connected with this. American Airlines, for instance, has never asked us what the content of any play was. They have never, they've never in any way interfered or edited. If you were to go wider, farther afield and get more commercial sponsors, would you, do you think, begin to get a kind of holding back? Would there be, do you think you would invite a kind of censorship?
Unfortunately.
I think
I think so.
And then you
I
think
think so.
not?
I think not.
And Alan thinks so. Well, I'd like to hear both of
Even
you.
the government objects to certain, that's why the thing died.
I think about Ed Keenholz's exhibit at the museum in Los Angeles when he did his, one of his more controversial constructions. And I can remember how uptight what was our supervisors or our city council, some of the members were. However, his work goes on. Now,
well, our tradition is not altruism, as you pointed out earlier. And when a major corporation undertakes to sponsor something that is widely seen, something that has so far been a narrow range, and we've been very fortunate in having sponsors, and they have exhibited some courage. But when it opens up and when it spreads out and when they are visible, they are immediately either, they would feel tarred by the brush of what is performed inside. Witness the general level of television today.
Well, this is
and we all know that they are
this is-
tarred, that it's the desire to be as calm, as sedate, as non-controversial
as
as
non-rocking the boat.
Well, this is
right.
called protection of the institutional image. You see, and they are very cautious about this sort of thing because they don't want X brand to be associated with something that is highly controversial.
Well, why do you
or
think
highly
not,
sensitive.
Kate? You think that something they would feel in relation to a television program, they would not feel in relation to sponsoring something like the American College Theater
Yes,
Festival. Is
and
that it?
one of the reasons why is because this thing is coming out of an educational thing, not out of a commercial thing. See, television, after all, is just a commercial undertaking. But this thing we're working on, people get money out of it, people lose money on it. But basically, it's a thing with a high purpose. In other words, it's an idealist thing. Consequently, I think you will find that a great many of the very wealthy corporations and things will feel that this doesn't touch their actual business end of themselves, and that they can make these. Look at the money that people give to churches. The people who give money to churches don't worry about whether they're Catholic, Episcopalian, Jewish, Chinese, or what.
Or whether they're teaching about God or the devil.
Exactly.
Right.
But their names are not published on a roll.
Pardon?
Their names are not published on a roll.
Where's the roll?
Well,
there is no roll to this.
But Kate, you're absolutely correct. This is the right moment for probably not us, we're not so young anymore, for a young man to come along.
It's good for old people to come on.
Pictures
Don't tell me it's only for young
in
people.
trouble. Pictures are in trouble. Television is in trouble. Radio is in trouble. The theater has been in trouble. If somebody comes along now with the right show,
I'm not talking about a right show. I'm talking about the basic idea and the basic ideals that exist in this country just as much and in other countries, though people don't recognize them as easily. I think the reason that classic plays are so valuable is because they're full of ideals and ideas that you don't have to say, that's Greek. You say, this is a dream. This is something to care about. This is something to die for. And that's what the theater is. Basically, it should be and always has been.
And I think, too, Kate, that it's a matter of courage. And courage is a good thing to encourage because, and I won't mention any names, one of the plays, the college plays that we went to, was of a highly controversial nature. The head of the department of that college, the night I was there, several of the trustees of the college were there, and I, with my own eyes, looked over and saw 2 empty seats after the first act, and was told later that a pair of the trustee and his wife had gotten up and left. They were upset about the language in the play, I think more than perhaps than the ideas, but there was some rather explicit language. Well, the head of this department said to me, I can't say that I didn't know that this might happen when I did this play, but my students came to me. They found the play. They found it. They were excited by it. They said to me, we would love to do this. And I was not about to say to them, don't. We haven't got, we'd be scared to. It might rock the boat. He said, I decided we'll do it. And he said, I don't know what the repercussions are going to be from those empty seats now, but I am glad I did it. And whatever comes of it, well, we'll just have to fight it. So I think that probably, we mustn't hold back from getting the companies perhaps to sponsor us. And then if they yell, that's going to bring out the courage in people. And that's a marvelous catalyst.
Will you allow me for one moment to see your imagination run away? Just Sophocles, Shakespeare, Molière, Ibsen, Strindberg, Shaw, Chekhov, Gogol, Rostand, Goethe, Gorky, Lorca, Calderon, O'Casey, Andreev, Schnitzler, O'Neill, Tennessee Williams, Capek, Arthur Miller, Thornton Wilder, Brecht, Beckett, William Inge, Edward Albee. I just throw a few names around. No, but not one of your men will leave the theater if they see plays by these giants of literature.
Yes, but they should not only see those, Fritzy, but they should see plays by perhaps not those.
Fritz, in their time,
Yes.
they had walkouts.
But Ibsen,
But not now.
but Ibsen, I'm sure, had to fight the fight we're talking about, that Bob's talking about. In
Don't
his
play,
how
don't
he had
play
to
the
fight.
Ibsen plays which are dated, even so they're well constructed. But if you play, let's say, Peer Gynt, your imagination runs away, and these 2 men who left the theater will never leave the theater again because they get used to good theater. They haven't seen any good theater.
You know, Fritz, you have named writers, all of whom we are all familiar with, who, had you been in existence at that time, probably would have said, I don't want to see them. I want to see the classicists, going back to previous generations. Because today these people have become classics. Each one of them had a terrific fight. Each one was a great rebel. Each one fought society. Each one fought against the political system. Many were exiled. Many went to jail.
I know that.
And today they're classics. Now, how can we, if we know this and understand this, how can we say then we should do only those things which time has made a classic?
I don't say only. I say
we must
this
say,
is the background.
But
this
we are
is your,
developing that same background
This is your
today.
real background, like anyone learns his profession.
We
This is
are
where you
learning
learn.
these things today. I say that the students today are the potential playwrights, are the potential Ibsens, are the potential O'Neills, are the potential
Not without learning
Euripides.
from the older.
Now,
The
let me go
inspiration
to
they
something
get.
else. They must learn. If they don't learn, then the whole thing is a failure. So they must learn. Now, Ezra said a moment ago, where are they going to go, or where's that effect, you know, the business afterwards. I have told students, I have told people that come up to students who have asked me the same question, because they have said, well, film is more relevant. And I have said, you will be greater in film if you have a theater foundation.
Right.
If you understand, excuse me, the classics. I sound anti-classicist, but I'm not. If you understand the history of the theater, if you understand the literature of the theater, if you have the experience of working in the theater, then you will be a better filmmaker, too.
You just say what I just said.
No, well, you don't agree about a lot of things.
I agree beautifully at times.
At times we are in complete agreement, you see. But we know where we disagree. That's an old story. We're not going to get into that here.
The young person, many of our young people today don't even feel it's necessary to learn how to speak.
That is a
How
major...
can they? And they may have a point. In other words, the language that we use is archaic. We know of languages before us that was archaic and
Ezra,
died
language has
on the
always
vine.
been archaic. Language has always been archaic because every day in the history of the world there has been the addition of new words, the creation of new words. Every society has created its own language. True, basic Greek, Latin, whatever roots or whatever in the Semitic languages or the Aryan languages.
But I hear some words right now which are as old as Methuselah and were never used on the stage. They're used now. I don't think that's improving.
I think
the
one of the
language.
greatest examples of language in the theater and the criticism, the use of language in the theater is UNESCO, who in every play he has written says, we have lost communication. We don't talk to each other anymore.
Of course, one of the very good things that comes out of the College Theater Festival setup is that they get heard not only by themselves but by audiences, and they discover that they don't speak too well, or that they're hard to understand, or that they don't understand the words they're saying. This in itself is a very valuable part of education, and consequently leads to a better quality all the way along. I don't think they'll ever stop talking. Do you, Ezra?
Well, they may stop talking in a way that we old fogies can understand. But that, I think, is our problem, not theirs.
Language is part of the whole evolutionary process.
We can always go back to pantomime.
We can, if we have to. Language is a very strange thing. You find yourself communicating in certain areas in a way different than you communicate in another area. We speak, all of us, probably, we speak different languages.
We do, don't we?
And I know when I'm speaking Italian, for example, I construct things in an entirely different way than I do in English, because that is the way. You must know the blood of a language, because always there is life and vitality to language, and where there is life and vitality, there is no retrogression or decay.
But we have many young people seeking theater training in our colleges and universities who do not find our classic and traditional language and use of language as relevant to their problems today and their neighbors. And were they to use it, they feel they would not be understood by the people they
They want to be heard. Right?
That's why rock music and that's why folk music is the theater of the young person.
Yet rock music is now declining.
No, I think the only thing we can offer to them is just the basic principle that there's no sin in dreaming, that the artist is the one who dreams but has the courage to tell his dream so that other mortals, mere mortals, can appreciate that and perhaps also be incited to some personal courage to dream and do something about their dreams in whatever language, whatever form, whatever media, whether it's going to provide work for actors and designers or not is really irrelevant.
Right.
It really is irrelevant. It is what we do with our life, all of our lives.
Well, do you think that we've got a better chance to get what we talk about, which is some forms of monetary help? I'm trying to avoid the word subsidy in the theater. In a time like this one is, where people are worrying about the cost of a loaf of bread. I went and got gasoline the other day and found it costs now 42 cents a gallon, and I said, when did that happen? Or a box of soap powder is $2.75. It's just so shocking. Do you think you can go to a Congress that's responsive to an electorate and say to them, you know, can you give money to the theater when they are not?
Yeah.
Are we in the roughest line of time?
I have one solution. I don't think we can. But I made a speech in one college, and I had a standing ovation. I don't say that to just talk about it. A standing ovation because I told the young people it's up to them. And they all agree. They were so enthusiastic. The enthusiasm of young people is fantastic.
However,
and I said it's up to you to see that we have a national theater. You vote, you fight, you do. And if we do that some more, it's up to the young people to fight for something like this.
As it was first produced in December of 1970, right here at KVCR-TV, there you have Somewhere Beyond Broadway, as I remember television. Well, please come back to the KVCR-TV of today. It was great fun for me to see that program again, and I hope you enjoyed it. And above all, I think you'll find that the issues raised in the conversation, that lively, really interesting conversation, are still very much a part of the questions that have to be dealt with in contemporary American theater. We would like to know what you thought of this program. If you'd like to see more of our programs from the past or any other comments you care to make, please send a card or a letter to I Remember Television, KVCR-TV, 701 South Mount Vernon Avenue, San Bernardino, California, 92410. Or you may wish to use our website. Many of you are doing that. And we're most grateful for the email sent to www.kvcr.org. Whichever method of communicating you choose, I hope you will do so, because we look forward to hearing especially from you. This is Ed Rothhaar. Thank you for joining me as I Remember Television.
I Remember Television, a perspective on the past, is written by Ed Rothhaar, produced by Don Leifer, directed by Al Gondos, and comes to you from KVCR-TV in San Bernardino. I Remember Television is a production of the San Bernardino Community College District.